Okay. All right. So, hello, hello. I am doing the LinkedIn Makeover series this week, and I have my good colleague and client, Kaleigh Finn, who is here. And we're going to be looking at Kaleigh's profile. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll go up to Kaleigh's LinkedIn profile. And as we were talking before we started recording, Kaleigh had said that there's a few things that she really wanted to be called out on her LinkedIn profile. So in terms of qualities as a professional, accomplished, creative, collaborative, and then also in terms of her skills, project management and adult learning. So that's kind of the lens that I'm going to be looking through as I go through your profile, Kaleigh. Is there anything else that you kind of wanted to add at this point that that you want like people to take away from your profile?
No, I think that kind of captures what we're talking about.
Okay, awesome. So we'll just kind of go from top to bottom. So the first thing that I look at is your profile picture. I mean, unless like, how do you feel about your profile picture?
I like it. It's
Yeah,
within a year that it's not like me 10 years ago or anything. So I like it.
good. I always ask that question because sometimes I make an assumption and then I get on the phone with someone and they're like, oh, I hate that picture. So my outside perspective is that this is a perfect profile picture, Kaleigh. It's clear, it's good resolution, it's good lighting. You don't have a lot of background kind of clutter in it. And the other thing that you've done is that you've zoomed it to the extent where your face fills up like about, maybe not quite 80, but roughly between 50 and 80% of the frame. And that's what you want. And you just have a beautiful smile on your face. It's really inviting. So that's a great profile picture. Don't make any changes to that.
Sounds good.
On the background image, this is an interesting one because the cool thing is that you've actually added a custom image. And so tell me a little bit about this image and why you chose it. Is it pencils, right?
Yeah, it's pencils, which I work in education. So that feels kind of, I don't know, like a symbol of the industry, I guess. But I liked the color and it's not just like the typical, number two pencils,
Yeah.
right? To me, they bring like a little bit of like pop and life and excitement, which I hope to be associated with that creativity.
Awesome.
So that was kind of my thought process putting them there.
So this is great. I would say that this definitely, I take away creativity from this. And so that's what happens with a lot of times people will choose background images that is personally meaningful to them. But it doesn't necessarily align professionally. And so I would say that keep this background image, especially because I know that you're continuing in adult learning and there's an association with like education, as you mentioned, and pencils, and like just psychologically you get that. So I don't think that you really need to make any changes to your background image. The only thing that would come up is if you found something else kind of related to adult learning that you really liked that image that was just kind of a good background image, then you could, but otherwise this is awesome. So no changes there. Then the next thing that we look at is the headline. So this is what shows up just right underneath your name.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of things that you can do with this. So you can either create a brand statement around that. And that's something like, if that's something of interest to you, then we could go back and look at that, or you can follow up with me. But that would be just a summary of who you are, what you do, and how you do it professionally. So it kind of incorporates, the being a specialist or being a leader or being a manager in the area, what you do and how you do it. So that can be one. The other way that you've kind of started here, which I want to acknowledge is great because you have updated this so that it's not just defaulting to your last job title, which is the typical thing that happens with LinkedIn. And so you've written adult learning, you've written community building specialist. And so this would be a place where you could actually incorporate some of these other qualities and skills that you shared with me. So like you could say accomplished adult learner or adult learning or accomplished community building specialist or creative, adult learning with creative angle, or however, collaborative community building specialist. So you can think about how you can add those keywords right up there in the title, as well as definitely you've got the adult learning in there, but this would be a great opportunity to add project management in there as well. And so the
Makes sense.
keywords is another way, because you actually have a lot of space with this headline to put a lot of words. And so if you look at my profile, I actually have a lot of keywords in there that are related to the job search process and career growth. So go ahead and elaborate on that one, and that's totally fine.
What's like the max number? Like how much is too much? So is it like 2 lines and then it's like, all right, you're done? Or what do you
that's
think
a good
there?
question. I have to go back. There's a max number of characters that you can use in this. So it used to be like 138, but LinkedIn is changing a lot. So I don't remember off the top of my head how many characters that you can do right now. But I would say probably if you flip to 2 lines, that's okay. If it gets down to 3 or more, it ends up being a little bit much.
Right.
But the key thing is that you want to put the key words or phrases that you want to be known for, because most of the time people are just going to land on your profile and they may not even do anything more than just look at this one first picture.
Sure.
And so you want to make sure that you use that to have them get to know a little bit more about you than what would be just your last job title. And so then you've got your work and all of this, and you've got 500 or more connections, which is awesome, because then that just means that with the 3 degrees of separation, you'll show up in a lot more searches, the more connections that you have, which is good. And then assuming that you're still in the Dallas area, then leave that. If you move, then update the location so that people kind of get a sense for where you are.
Do you think, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
Do you think that the location should be where I work or where I live for someone like myself who works remote?
Typically it's where you live, because it would be associated with the time zone that you're in.
Okay.
Yeah, because then if people are scheduling calls, or at least they just kind of get the idea of, oh, she also lives in the Dallas area. I live there too. So there can sometimes be a connection that way too. So yeah.
Great.
That's totally fine. And then as we get to the about section, so you've done a cool thing where you've got a really powerful sentence. I'll share with you what I consider kind of the 5-step recipe, if you will, for the about section, because this is an opportunity that you have to share a lot more of your story so that people know about you. So the first step in this process is what I recommend as either a point of view, like this could be perfect for you with adult learning. Like, what's your opinion, your point of view on what the best people in adult learning are doing, or adult learning should be doing this? Like, you have an opinion or a point of view. And so that is, you've kind of done that a little bit here about having unique adult learning experiences that professionals value and enjoy. But for you, I might suggest that you actually go a little bolder and say, this is, I believe that the best adult learning experiences are X, Y, and Z. And what that does is that it shares your perspective. And what'll happen is that you'll end up aligning people that either that kind of hook sentence catches their attention, and they're going to want to click that little more button that I just clicked. Or for people that agree with you, they'll be like, yeah, I think so too. Like, I want to know more about this person. And then on the flip side, if people disagree with you, then they're going to pass. And guess what? That's okay.
Because
right?
I don't want to work with people who I don't agree with on fundamental things.
Exactly. That's the whole concept of brand. And so that would be one thing, is that you just update that first sentence so that it's a little bit bolder with your point of view. And then the second step in this process is to put a short paragraph about your background or your journey. I started here and then I moved into nonprofit, but adult learning has always been a theme in everything I've done. So you can give a bit of a short paragraph about your career journey. And then if that has had some, moves back and forth, then look for what the theme is, if there's a theme amongst all of your different jobs or one of the things you learned, and you can put that in there. And so that gives people a little bit of a quick sense without having to go down and read down your entire experience section. It gives us a quick sense of, in your words, what's your background. And then the third step is that I recommend that you pick what I call one of your greatest hits, or a key win, or an accomplishment, or something that you've done professionally. Ideally, I'd say in the last 5 years, that you're really proud of. And so, that could be, I know that you are moving into going to graduate school. And so that could be that, or it could be something else that you had in your career. And so what that does is that it is, some people that are going to land on your profile are very results and outcomes oriented. And so if that's the case, it's essentially providing validity and proof that, hey, yes, I had this background, but I've done some great things in my career, and here's one of my favorites. And if you can tie that to adult learning, or if you can tie that to project management, or maybe it definitely ties to your keyword of accomplished, then that's a great thing, because it kind of provides that proof. So that's step 3. And then step 4 is that you do a short paragraph about where you are now. So, at this point in my career, this is what I am involved with now, what I'm passionate about, or what I'm focused on accomplishing in my next, where I am right now. So people get a sense for, this is where you are now. And then the last step, or the 5th step, you've actually already done. And that's just simply a listing of your key skills, key strengths, key qualities. You might want to, like, you've got your strengths finders here, which is great, but I would probably recommend that you add some additional career skills, like project management, and like if there's some specific systems or methodologies related to adult learning that you're very versed in, then list those out. Because what will happen is that recruiters or others will be doing keyword searches, and they'll punch in keywords that are important to them for that particular position. And if you've got that in your profile, then it'll pop up for that search, and that's great. And then people who understand that same methodology or those same sort of skills, then they'll have a good understanding. So this is great. And then you've got a featured, which is great. A lot of people don't leverage this option, but you've got a key featured article. And so this is really great. That's aligned with where you're working right now. So that's perfect. And then in terms of your activity, this is great, because I know that you've been, if I kind of flip over to looking at the activity, you've been pretty active, like you're on LinkedIn and using it, which is good. What you want to be thinking about in the activity is thinking about having a theme emerge. And when I say theme for you, it's these themes around these keywords that you've shared. So certainly adult learning would be a theme for you. Certainly, really great project management, examples of really collaborative, excellent teamwork, examples of high creativity, particularly if it intersects with creativity and adult learning. And so what you're looking for is, when you see posts or articles or other things that others have posted in your newsfeed, that you're either sharing those or commenting on them. And in your comments, it's like, what a great example of, creative adult learning, or something like that. So if I were to look at the last 6 months of your activity, I would start to see a theme emerge around accomplishment, creativity, collaboration, project management, adult learning, because those are the key things that you want people to take away. A lot of times people don't necessarily think about this, and they'll just like or share kind of just an ad hoc list of different stuff. But if you're a little bit more intentional with the activity, then that's great, because it starts to build a theme around you as a professional.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Going back to the featured, how long should I keep a featured thing there? So that was a news, I was interviewed by a news station about the work that I was doing for Teacher Appreciation Week. It was like a huge project, something I really love doing. I feel like it is super aligned to what I do and what I want to be known for.
Yeah.
how long can I keep that there before it's like, okay, I need to have something else, or I need to even maybe just take it down because it's beyond a certain time?
Well, I think that you can keep it there. Honestly, there's not a right or wrong or a rule of thumb. I have an article that was on my featured that is several years old, actually. I think I have a couple things on my featured, but and I keep it there because it was really a highly engaging. It was a great example of one of the articles that I wrote that was people had the most engagement around and such. And so I would say for as long as you feel like it's still relevant, then keep it. If you have something else that pops up that you want to replace it with, then that's great. But what it also does, because you were interviewed in it, is that it also provides validity and it ties right back into your word accomplishment. And so I think it's fine to keep it as featured. It definitely calls it out as opposed to it being kind of buried in your news feed.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah, there's nothing wrong with keeping it there just until you have something that is more, that you want to replace it with. So there's not really a rule of thumb for how long it has to stay.
Okay.
Because they're saying featured, not timely.
Right.
If they were saying timely, then you probably wouldn't want to do that. So then under your experience, one of the things that you could be thinking about, Kaleigh, is to add a little bit more. You've got kind of the headliner, the key one sentence. But especially if you want the key qualities of accomplished, creative, collaborative to shine and show up, as well as the project management and adult learning, like these would be examples with the work that you've done where you could add either a paragraph or add some key bullets that gives a little bit more context around your expertise in these areas. And
Okay.
so it doesn't mean that you could keep the one sentence that you have, but just add to it to
Okay.
give me a little bit, if I'm looking at your profile, give me a little bit more information about what you've done as a manager in collective learning or as an educator, etc. So that would be a great opportunity where you can essentially filter around the things that you've done that were great accomplishments, that were examples of your creativity, that were areas where you were highly collaborative and had a great outcome. Project management, adult learning, some of those key themes. So I know that you did all of those in your jobs. And so it's just a matter of adding to this section. So that's great. And then on education, this is awesome. You also, you added this one. This is great. Your master's. So you don't have to keep the year, your graduation year. You can actually lose that if you want to. For you, this was still relatively current. Some people I talked to, they had their undergraduate work many, many years ago. And so you don't have to keep the year. That's optional.
Okay.
The key thing is that you have the degree and you have the data and the information about the institution and the university that you went to. And then this is great, licenses and certificates. If you have any new ones or any additional ones, then definitely add those, but this is a great one to be having. And then on the skills and endorsements, this is one that people just kind of don't think about a lot. So what is coming up for you as your top 3 is project management, public speaking, and leadership. Are those the top three that you want to be known for?
They're the top 3 that I want to be known for, that I have been endorsed for. So there are some that are like, have 2 or 3 people, right? As opposed to 11 or 12. So that was kind of a place of tension where I was like, should I put something else that's maybe lower endorsements,
So I would say, because most people do not click on the show more button. And most people, when they're reading through a profile, they're scanning. So they'll pick up the key titles, project management, public speaking, leadership, but they might not dig into all the different endorsements if they're just scanning. And so I would suggest that you just go through and pick, if it's not these 3, or if it's 2 out of these 3, then edit this section. Even if they don't have endorsements, still put them on here if they're important to you and you want to be known for them, because then over time you'll end up getting endorsed for them if they're there. So that would be something to think about. And then you have the recommendations, which is great. So the thing that I recommend is that you keep this kind of current meaning I've got at least a couple or the best rule of thumb is like 3 per every 6 to 12 months, really. And so this is a great opportunity because these ones that you have are fabulous that you have 7. That's fantastic. But they are also a little over a year old. So this could be a great opportunity to get some new ones. And you can reciprocate. That's a tip. If you're willing to reciprocate, then a lot of people are like, oh, sure, I'd be happy to give a recommendation. So that's another piece. And then on the accomplishments, this is a great section that there's a lot of different categories for this. So you've got your honors and awards, you've got your organization. If you have key projects or languages, or you can actually edit and look at all the different sections, patents and accomplishments and all these other things, that if there's some other accomplishments that are applicable for you, then definitely update and add that.
Okay.
So this is good. And then okay, the other thing that I don't see on here for you that you can decide if you want to add is, have you been involved with any volunteer organizations or volunteer groups at all, or not?
A lot of them I do through my current role with because we're a nonprofit.
Sure.
But I could think about, and also with my new move, I'll probably be doing more volunteering as part of my expanding my network. So yeah, tell me more.
So this is great. So if I just asked, because the volunteer work is an optional one, but there is a section, there is a category for it that you can add to your profile. And if you have done volunteer work, this is one of those opportunities where sometimes in your volunteer capacity, you've done some really creative work with that organization. Or maybe the work that they've asked you to do has been in the area of project management. Or even if it was tied into an adult learning organization, then essentially the volunteer can sometimes be a lens for also showcasing the kind of things that you have done. It's re-emphasizing these key qualities that we've been talking about, as well as sometimes you may end up getting a connection with someone because they too volunteered for the same organization. So that's an optional one, but a lot of people, if they are active in the community, then they'll add that. And so that's an optional one. And then on the interests, the one thing to be thinking about is just to take a glance at the interest. Like, you've got some great thought leaders, your university, etc. And so this is an opportunity where you get to follow, really accomplished leaders, really creative companies, people, examples of organizations that are highly collaborative, or the top project management, PMI, or things like that. Mm-hmm. So this is just an opportunity to take a look at what are the interests that are showing up, and are those still current and relevant for me if I want to edit this. Then just choose to follow organizations that are really aligned with the skills and qualities that you've outlined, because then all of that kind of stuff will continue to show up in your news feed, which is great. It kind of reinforces the whole activity piece as well.
And can I choose which ones show up when, like, at the bottom?
You can. I think what shows up are the most current ones that you've followed. So if you add a new one, that should show up in this list. So you can actually click see all, and then just decide if you want to keep all these ones or not. Okay. And then you can just add the new ones. Or if you want to unfollow, then it won't show up in your interest section anymore.
And I have one other question about at the top right near where your mouse is.
Yes.
Should that be my undergrad or my graduate school that I'm currently in?
I would probably say your graduate school that you're currently in. Okay. So that's your undergrad that's showing up. So see Correct. If you can get it to switch to your graduate. That's a piece that I'm not sure exactly how LinkedIn's connections are working from the platform. It might only be that once you get a degree, it shows. That piece I'm not 100% certain of. So you can, let's see if you can play with that. So good. Okay. All right, Kaleigh, any other questions?
No, this has been super helpful. You've given me a lot of things to think about and paragraphs to write, and I'm excited. This was really great.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll stop the recording here.